It's not a movie, it's a movement. It's inspired countless products, festivals, businesses. It even has its own religion, complete with actual ordained monks. The 1998 Coen Brothers cult classic, The Big Lebowski. Welcome to Silver Screen Prints, where I make t-shirts based on my favorite movies. Today I'm drawing a design based on the very real Carubeto shirt Jeff Bridges wore in the movie, loaned to him by his brother Beau. Oh, and if you haven't seen it, fair warning, there's going to be some spoilers. And by some, I mean the entire video. Right off the bat, I love the fact that the movie is set approximately 7 years into the past during the first Gulf War. Why did the Coens do this? It hardly plays into the plot of the movie whatsoever, other than to reinforce the quote, "This aggression will not stand," which is shown first on TV being said by then-President George H.W. Bush and then later by the dude, which includes a slight addition.
The dude minds. This will not stand, you know? This aggression will not stand, man.
But other than that, how much of a different movie would it have been if it was set during the modern era, aka 1998? I mean, I guess the dude's cell phone would have been slightly smaller, but that's about it. It would basically be like me pretending to be a cowboy saying, "Back in the year 2020, there was this flu that people said came from Chinese people eating one of these. And if you said that was true, you were kicked off of Facebook." And you might be saying right now, who cares about getting kicked off of Facebook? But you have to remember, it was 2020. People under 70 still used Facebook to creep on people they used to know casually to see whether or not they were more successful. But I digress. After the movie cuts to the opening credits, we find ourselves in a very authentic 90s bowling alley. I don't know about you guys, but I spent a lot of time in bowling alleys in the late 90s and early 2000s. It may seem weird, but a hot date night for me in junior high was something called laser bowling, where you'd go listen to Kryptonite, Three Doors Down, and other songs like that under black lights. I even had to pay a cover charge to get in. As a Russian Border Patrol agent recently told me, it was a different time. But that's a whole nother story. I'm not a smoker per se, but I do miss when people could smoke in bowling alleys. There's something about that smell. Are you even really bowling without it? By the way, has anyone ever noticed that the dude isn't wearing socks when he puts on his bowling shoes? What a complete savage. At this point, we're introduced to Walter and Donnie, the dude's friends/bowling teammates. He tells them the story about the home invaders/pissers and is then convinced that he needs to get this rich guy, which as you may remember is also named Lebowski, to pay for his rug, because these henchmen were in fact looking for him. Oh yeah, the henchmen. After he writes a 69-cent check for a carton of cream at the Ralph's grocery store, but before he goes bowling, he gets back to his house to find two guys waiting for him. They are henchmen for a quote-unquote known pornographer who thinks he's the rich guy with the same last name whose wife owed their boss money. Of course, they soon realize that he is in fact not the rich guy, or a rich man at all, or even a married man, but rather a quote-unquote loser. This is the setup for the entire movie, and it's kind of insane. I don't have a law degree, but I took a campaign and election law class once in grad school, so I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that this legal theory would not pass muster. Would it be the right thing to do morally? Probably, but what does that have to do with the criminal justice system? Regardless, we'll move on to the meeting with the rich Lebowski, who I assume is actually the titular character of the movie, rather than the dude. Also, I know this is a movie and you have to suspend reality a little bit, but in what world would this rich guy even meet with the dude? Especially since the only information his manservant Brandt has supposedly told him is that he has the same last name and two guys peed on his rug. If someone called me requesting a meeting with the same story, I would not invite them to my house. But luckily for us, the Big Lebowski did, where he proceeds to berate the dude for being an unemployed quote-unquote bum, which is very ironic. Because as we learn later in the movie, the Big Lebowski is not a self-made man at all, and also doesn't have any sort of real job. He's just a pretend philanthropist who got everything from his rich ex-wife. Yet, he holds himself up as if he is the dude's superior, when in fact, he's basically his equal, if you take away the house and the three-piece suit and everything. In any case, the dude is unfazed by the Big Lebowski's remarks, and casually tells Brandt that the old man told me to take any rug in the house. It's actually the most badass thing he does in the entire movie.
From this point on, he just kind of lets things happen to him rather than asserting any control over any given situation. It's actually kind of surprising that he even had the wherewithal to steal a rug.
Based on what we already know about him from the scene with the carpet pissers, he's not particularly assertive. From there, some bowling and attempted murder transpires, but more importantly, the Big Lebowski summons the dude back to his house, but not because he wants him to give back the stolen rug. And for some reason, the dude abides. Like I said, he just kind of lets things happen to him for the rest of the movie. I get that it wouldn't be a very entertaining movie if he just took the rug and bowled for another hour and a half, but that would certainly be more realistic. At this point, he learns that Bunny, the former porn star / trophy wife of the Big Lebowski, has been kidnapped, or at least that's what he believes. So he hires the dude, out of all the people in the world, to rescue her. In typical Coen Brothers style, it's a pretty absurd comedic premise. Why of all people would he hire the guy who just stole his rug to rescue his wife? According to his manservant Brandt, it's because the Big Lebowski believed the home invaders / carpet pissers sent by Jackie Treehorn to get money owed by Bunny were also the ones who kidnapped her. It never becomes entirely clear if the Big Lebowski actually believes this. The only thing we actually learn is that he didn't want Bunny back and used the kidnapping as an opportunity to embezzle money from his family's foundation, the Little Lebowski Urban Achievers, which he runs with his daughter Maude, which will come into play later. It's a good scheme from his point of view. Not only does he have an excuse for the missing money, he figures out a way to get rid of his wife that he doesn't like without having a costly divorce, and he also gets revenge on the bum who just stole his rug, because presumably these kidnappers would probably kill them both. The funny thing about all of this is the dude, Walter, and Maude, the Big Lebowski's daughter, all believe that Bunny faked her own kidnapping to steal her own ransom. We don't know whether this is to pay back Jackie Treehorn or just to run off with it for herself.
Okay, so it's taken me about 20 years and 100 viewings of this movie to come up with this one question.
But what's the deal with the Nihilist part? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Did Bunny tell them that she was going on a trip to Palm Springs, and they decided to use this as an opportunity to extort money from the Big Lebowski? We can't assume that she was in on the plot herself because she probably wouldn't have come back to the Big Lebowskis if that was the case. The strangest unanswered question of all is, why would Maude know to suspect them first? Why did the Coens emphasize Maude saying the word Johnson when meeting with the dude, only to have the Nihilists use the same phrase? Were the Coens trying to show us a connection here? Maybe Maude thought her dad actually did give the dude a real briefcase filled with ransom money for the Nihilists. If so, you could see a situation where she is the true extortionist from her own family foundation. Think about it. She gives the Nihilists a cut, keeps the rest for herself, claims they got everything, and then turns her dad over to the cops for embezzlement. He takes the fall and she keeps the money. But that's not what happened. Her dad kept the money and Bunny came back. It just seems like the Big Lebowski gets away with it, and the worst thing that happens to him is that Walter drops him onto the floor.
The funny part about all of this is that the kidnapping, despite being the only real plotline in the entire movie, is kind of an afterthought.
The way the dialogue is written, every time a character starts to put the pieces of the kidnapping together, they are interrupted by some non sequitur, like Walter constantly mentioning Vietnam or Judaism, or Maude trying to trick the dude into impregnating her. In fact, most of the memorable scenes and lines are all the ones that have nothing to do with the plot, which I guess you could say is what makes a Coen Brothers movie a Coen Brothers movie, and that's why we love them. Speaking of not following the plot of the video, here is my t-shirt that I've been making over the course of recording this video, which I have not talked about since the intro. If you are actually interested in screen printing, you can watch this short I did where I describe my process. I use a dip pen and screen filler to make a stencil. I've never actually seen anyone do it like this, so it might be worth your time. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe. I'll probably do Gran Torino next. It'll be a good time.